Hello and welcome to the Faith Building Podcast, episode 71, with your lovely and amazing host, Vladi Kuna.
Norman Gräter. Hi, guys.
Hello out there. The ones that watch YouTube say, oh, you guys didn't change outfit. It's true, because we record the second one, like 70 and 71, right one after the other, because we're in a flow and we just started something in episode 70, if you did not listen to it. So we just continue and we keep the flow. And that's another thing that has to do, are you honest with yourself? If you're in a flow state, if you have stuff going for you, don't stop it to please others in that moment. If you cannot take the others along, go somewhere else. You don't have to pull them into your world and make them happy people if they choose to not be happy at this very moment. That's totally okay. Then go somewhere else. Today's topic is something that's of interest for every one of us. It's the money topic. And what I wanted to share in last episode, I will throw in right now before I hand it to Vladi and her amazing wisdom about the topic. Our mentor always said, if you decide to order or get or ask for, however you want to phrase it, an amount from the universe, you need to be aware what it is for. And it does not help if you say, oh, I want to attract $10,000. That you say, I would use it for pleasure. I would use it for paying taxes. I would use it for vacation. You really need to know, almost down to the penny, what you want to use it for. Now, the interesting thing, when I heard that first time, I thought, does the universe really need to know how I spent those 10,000? Down to the penny? And he said, yes and no. Be very precise. Don't say I need 2,000 for rent. I think you don't pay 2,000. Maybe it's 1,978 and 70 cents. Be very precise. And the reason is, the moment you focus on those precise numbers, I need 573 and 85 for vacation. I need 29.13 for new toothpaste and groceries. You focus on those things that you want to have. And that's the reason. So it's not true that the universe needs to know how you would split those 10,000. It's that you stay longer in the vibration of saying, now I mentally kind of spend the money. I make myself a note, a piece of paper. I even have one here right next to me where I said, how do I want to spend 20,000 K in detail? Why? Because I just don't say, universe, 20,000 it is, and let it go, and then go back to another frequency or emotion. No, I have to make up my mind. I have to dig in. I have to do research. I'm getting interested. And that's the key, that it keeps you in the frequency, in the emotion of joy, of, wow, that's what I'm going to do with it, rather than saying, oh, that I have to spend, and oh, this bill is coming and I have to pay that, and do I really need that? No, you really need to stay as long as you can involved in that. And Emma mentioned that as well. Emma agreed that we mentioned the last podcast, and I hope I said her name right by now.
Yes, you did.
Perfect. That she said it was always so 100% sure and true that she will make money, and lots of money, and that she's growing, and Vladi can share more about that. I just wanted to point out, if you ask for an amount, take a piece of paper and write down exactly how you would split the money, what you would do, and get involved in all those little things that you write down, that it brings you more joy, more fun, and more pleasure while doing it, rather than saying, no, 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 I need to go over the finish line, what we spoke about in last episode, in episode 70. I need to go over the finish line, and only when the 20K are here, then I'm happy. That's not the frequency that get you the 20K. Write down the details. Vladi, what do you think?
I love the topic of money, and I also had lots of paradigms around the topic of money. So I'm gonna start it with really saying this. You know, even song from ABBA, "Money, Money, Money must be funny in a rich man's world." I'm gonna read this. It's by Andrew Carnegie. He said, "I demand the riches in definite terms. I have a definite plan for acquiring riches. I'm engaged in carrying out my plan, and I'm giving an equivalent in useful service of the value of those riches I demand. Andrew Carnegie was US Steel. He was one of the richest people in the world. And obviously, when we started with Bob Proctor, we learned a lot of stories. He found Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book, which all of you must know. And I think everyone who studies money at some point must have read Think and Grow Rich, because I think it's in personal development. The world is almost impossible. But we often talk about it now. We study with Norman, with Kevin Trudeau, and we're learning a little tweaky bits around it that wasn't quite full. And you know what's funny? When I read that book few times, very many times, because when we studied with Bob, he made us read every chapter 30 days. So literally we had to read the whole chapter for 30 days and then move to chapter 2. I did read it that way. Think and Grow Rich wasn't actually my popular book in personal development, so I will be very honest, but I've learned a lot. And I think the strongest message for me was really understanding the desire and persistence and the definiteness. And that's what Norman just said. I want to have more money. I mean, there's so many people who tells us this. Like when we ask, okay, what would you love? Well, I would love more money. People have no clarity and no definiteness of what they want. And if you go to, regardless how big or small the dream is, remember, this is just a law of relativity. Whether something small or a big is purely for you comparing it to something else. Otherwise, there's no big or small. It may be big for someone who hasn't done it before, or it may be very small for someone else. Now, going back to money is usually translated, and we first think of currency. But money isn't just a currency. And talking about currency, I've got a 50 pounds bill here. I do keep one because that's the highest bill we Brits have. What can I say? Don't come up with the higher note than 50. But I love how we're studying Happy Money. I mentioned it last time by Ken Honda. He's this Japanese zillionaire and he's talking about money. I was always really fascinated by Feng Shui, energies, crystals, all this kind of work. And they all are actually talking about the art. One of the ladies in our study group pointed out what they did. I've had my nails done before I flew back, and they were obviously Chinese people or something. But the way they hand you money back, she held a 20 note and she held it like this, saying, "Thank you." The whole process of her holding that 20, passing it to you with both hands with that note on the top, and bowing with it and saying thank you was like a ritual. And it really struck me at that point. I was like, isn't that funny how many of us, mostly the cash is disappearing anyway. So money is also money in your bank. It may be your investments. You're looking at, maybe you have some cryptos or something and you're looking at your phone, checking your, like if it goes up and down, but the energy and the connection that people had before is much weaker. Why? Because this is art, right? Think about that. God or whatever it is for you, a higher power, gave us a universe where there's trees. Trees are life to us. These are made of paper. Well, maybe not best paper these days. It's more like a plastic, but really it's all energy of circulation, right? So money should be taken as an art, as a gratitude, as you're handing note to electricity company saying thank you so much for paying the bills, because if you break down every single thing you're able to do within this month just thanks to the electricity, instead of I can't believe this, everything's going up and the petrol's going up and there is a war going on and I have to pay more bills. I'm not saying it's not true, and I know a lot of people struggle, but I really want you to think about the thinking we have and how much we can create worse situations for ourselves just by giving into this thinking. Because if we're very positive and trying to find good in something else will come back to us, not through the energy company, but through someone else. And Ken Honda talks about it as a happy and unhappy money. Happy money are the ones you give with thanks. If you're paying for a service, you're paying with the gratitude because oh my God, I love my nails, right? So whatever it is, or I love my coffee, or sometimes you may go and buy a coffee in the airport where you pay 3 times more for it than you would in your local shop, but it actually tastes like a black water, no foam, no smell. It's just disgusting, right? So you feel like, well, that's unhappy money, because you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. So pay attention to the energy you're giving out when you are around money, whichever way you form money, and how much intention and gratitude you have with it. Because as Norman pointed out, it's very true. One of my clients has actually her goal set, and she's got, I'm gonna say a really not the right number, so if she's watching, she just knows I'm using her as an example, but she has like 1,000,000 235,748 point something. And I was like, why would you choose? She said, well, everybody's like, I want to make 1,000,000 this year. It's very unusual that you would hit exactly the million. So she said, this is actually more realistic for me. And the more I think about it, she just has this number imprinted, but she knows exactly what she's doing. This amount she has for this, and this amount she has for this. Obviously, there will be a evaluation in 5 years, will be probably different, and we lose value of certain things. However, it's a good thinking, because if you desire to have more money, what are you desiring them for? Everybody says, I want more money. Well, okay, I'm going to give you that 50. And you may say, oh, great, but it's not going to make your life better. And I help with the charity. I've been on a board for 12 years in Africa, and we develop people. And that's the difference. You hand them money, they use them, you help them, because these people get food for 3 months, they get clothes and stuff, but 3 months down the line, they don't know how to make money again, and they're right back where they were before we gave them the money. So this comes to leadership as well. Are you developing people or directing things? If you're directing things and you're just throwing the money out without pausing and spending that, thank you, like, oh, thanks for my paying bill, like phone bill. Okay, it was higher because I traveled. So, like once you're traveling, your phone bill gets higher. But wasn't it amazing that it actually didn't disturb my travels in 2 weeks, and I was able to connect to everyone and everything, and my business and family and friends, everything ran smoothly because I was able to communicate. Start thinking like that, because it will 100% change the way you do things. Everything will change. Lots of people, and I've experienced it in, obviously, we help clients, and you create reminders for yourself when you have money. Make it real. I'm gonna say this. I've been surrounded by mentors who would have like stacks of fake money in the shelf, or you would create money sort of trees and what do you call them? The thing you pay yourself from money, and like all sorts of posts. Ask yourself a question. It's all right. By the way, I'm not saying this is a wrong thing. It's a wrong thing for me, because for me, it doesn't represent wealth. Ask yourself, when I'm wealthy, the way, like I'm rich and wealthy, is that what I will have? A stack of fake money in a shelf? Because I know quite a few very wealthy people, and actually they're trying to hide their wealth. So I thought, like, sometimes we're actually sending a wrong signals to the universe by pretending that we have wealth by buying a couple of expensive things. So people actually, and the reason we do that, because we need approval of others. Because if they walk into our house and they see that I have a more expensive candle and I have a more expensive this, and I'm buying it for them or myself. So again, the circulation of money is just energy. What you give out multiplies and comes back. Imagine that for every 10 you go out, 1,000 comes back, or 100, whatever is more believable for you, in a different value, and it usually does. What if your roof leaked and you have to spend 50,000 fixing your roof? But now the higher power is actually protecting you, and you don't have to experience this, so you don't need that 50,000. Somebody actually makes 50,000 and then they have to pay it for a broken roof. It's not actually money. Be very careful how you think of it. Just having more or asking for more does not necessarily mean a wealth. The wealth, you can never get to wealth. You must come from it. If you're not grounding yourself and you're not really, and it goes to lying to yourself, to our last episode, then you can move forward and feel this money is just energy and the circulating. Don't give what you don't have. I'm not saying give out the money you don't have and spend the stuff. Be wise, be smart about it. However, don't live in a scarcity mindset. Like, I can't afford this and I can't go there and I can't do this and I can't. It's better to walk, make your own tea in a flask, go for a walk in a forest, and be grateful how amazing this tea feels when you actually can walk in the forest, and how lucky you are you have this hour you can actually spend walking rather than being somewhere else. Like, just change the way you're thinking about it, and everything will change. Norman, sorry, I was going for a long time. This is my
That's
subject.
perfect. Thank you for your wisdom. I was reminded by a clip I saw the other day, and I knew of the clip. It's by Jim Carrey when he was at the Jay Leno show many, many years ago. And Jay Leno asked him about visualization, and that he heard that Jim Carrey used that. And he pulled out his wallet and got out a piece of paper and said, I wrote myself a check for $10 million for artist services rendered. And he said, whenever I had time, and I had a lot of time when I started because no one hired me, I drove to Mulholland Drive, right below the Hollywood sign, and took the check out and looked at the check and pretended this is right. Like, I'm at the top of Hollywood. It does not get any higher in Los Angeles, like where the Hollywood sign is. Yeah, that's the highest point. And that's what he did for years. And at one point, I think it was Dumb and Dumber, where he looked at his account and he had really reached, for sure, not 10 million as a solid number. What Vladi shared, it's not that you get this 1 million. No, it will be 1,150 and 20 cents probably. But still, it works. And as you mentioned, Ken Honda, I love him as well. And that's why I disappeared earlier for a second to get my wallet. And I will take something out of the wallet real quick just to prove the first point. Ken Honda said, if you open your wallet, what are you looking at? Usually you look at debt because you have your credit cards in there and your bank cards, and which means you put it on a credit card and it's minus for you. Maybe you have your passport or your driver's license, but basically you're looking at that. Money is hidden somewhere in here, or the coin somewhere in here. And he said, just get a money clip and put real money into the money clip. That's what I did. So this has various things. First of all, it's a combination of Bob Proctor and Ken Honda. Let's start with the money clip. The money clip says 4,000 euros per day, Norman Gräter, and the anchor. And interestingly, by now, a keynote of mine is worth 6,500. So I should make a new money clip. I've overreached that goal already, but when I did that, I had a regular salary and 4,000 a day was totally out of space. And now I make 6.5 in 1 hour. So that's cool. So money clip. Then Ken Honda said what Vladi also shared, be grateful when you spend something on your power bill or for the phone, because you use that. You use the service that made your life easier. And he said, always say thank you. What Vladi shared with the Asian ladies that hand back the money in a very polite way. He said, just write a note, arigato, which means thank you. I think it's Japanese or Chinese,
Yeah,
probably
that's it.
Japanese. Just put that on, which means I show you the full product again. If I take that out and I take the money clip away, I see arigato, which means I stand at a grocery store and as I read that, I say it out in my mind, because the moment you read it, you say it in your mind, right? So I say thank you for spending the money. Then I take the money, and in Germany, for euros, it's a little different than the UK money. What I just saw with Vladi, you have two heads on the back and the front. There are people up front. And with euros, you usually have a building up front, like let's take a 50. And you always, on all the notes, if it's a 5 or 100 or 200, I think that's the highest with us, you always have a bridge. You have different bridges. And what I learned from Anke, she said, from one of her mentors, always put the money with the bridge up front. And when you hand the money, don't give the front side, give the back side. And when you do that, look at the bridge and think out loud or just in your mind, say, thank you that you have been with me and I give you away. And please send me friends, relatives, other bills, other coins, gold, silver, metal, whatever, over this bridge back to me. I thought that's a very nice thing.
Mm.
So, but this only works with euros, I assume. And then there's one more piece because the statement, the belief statement, the big wish we have, and up front it says my attention is a possibility to my intention is a possibility beyond my wildest imagination. It's just the German version, so that's why I translated it. And you can see there are different papers in what my intentions were. And the one that's always on the back is I am the source of greatness.
Mm.
Which means if I put that back again, I have the money clip that shows me exactly what I'm worth. Then I have the arigato, I have the notes with the bridges up front, and I have I am the source of greatness right here. So whenever I touch my wallet and it's not hidden and I open it, this is what comes out. So I'm being reminded of thank you, of I'm the source, I see the bridges, and just play with money. And I mean it in the way how I say it. Take a note, feel the note. Vladi said the British one is a little bit more plastic than regular paper. Smell it. And some people say, oh yeah, money smells bad. If money would be a good friend, and I think we spoke about that in another earlier episode, and you would open the door and say, oh, you smell bad. Do you think the friend would come into your house? Can you change that in your mind? And that money is circulating, it goes through a million fingers and hands, some sweaty, some well washed, some others, I don't know. And this is the smell of circulation. You don't have to love it, you don't have to buy a money perfume and spray yourself with it. But the moment you think money is dirty, money smells, money is evil, the good friend, if money would be a good friend, as its energy, would not come into your door. And that's oftentimes a reason. Smell the money, feel it. I don't say lick the note, but why not? Look at it, look at the details, feel the details, close your eyes, just feel and say, oh, where are the things for blind people? There are some lines for blind people. Can you feel the difference? Like for the euro, you have lines up here that I figured. And depending the note you have, there are different lines. When you're blind, you can feel over that and figure, oh, it's a 50, it's a 5, it's a 10. But have you been aware of that? The little window you have, the things that they built in that you cannot copy it. Just, if you are in love, you look at your partner day in, day out, into their eyes, you kiss their hands, their cheeks, their arms, everything. You're so in love. But with money, you just take it and give it away, and you're frustrated when you give it away. Not realizing, oh, I got something for that. I got something eventually that I wanted. I wanted to have the heat in the house. I wanted to have my phone working. I wanted to have gas for the car to drive from A to B. Nobody forced it on you. Yeah, but I have to go to work. Yeah, who chose the work? It's what Vladi shared earlier. Or in the last episode it was, you are 100% responsible for your life right now. And if you don't like things, are you lying to yourself or to others? The topic from episode 70. So this is it from my side. I hand it back to Vladi to close today's call about money. And let's see what your final wisdom is, Vladi.
Have to be fast. I have 3 closures. No, but quickly to Norman, what you just said. Like, what are the stories you tell yourself from a childhood? If you were surrounded by listening that money is a bad thing, but rich people are every people, money doesn't grow on a tree, that all goes into your subconscious mind and it doesn't just disappear. You will always, if you believe you have to work hard for money, you're trading time for money. That's not how wealth is built. We're talking money is an energy, but wealth is not just money. And it's actually really the lifestyle as well, what you live. And if you go back to energy and the partnership, this is a greatest example I use on a coaching and money. Is like, imagine you date money. Just money is energy. How you treat this energy, that will come multiply. If you come to the restaurant and you have a date, and you imagine the money sits in opposite you, and you tell, well, like you're a root of all evil, and you don't grow on a tree, and I have to work hard for you, and like you're going to start complaining about money. Imagine you did this to a real person on a date. That person's gonna stand up and leave. And this is what's happening in an imaginary world, an energetic world with the money doesn't flow to you. You're not accepting it. You can be sitting, doing the affirmations, wishing for money, desiring and writing the goals and having all these triggers that help you to feel abundant. But really go to yourself and be brutally honest with yourself. What is the stories I'm telling myself about money, and what is it that is happening with the money? I'll quickly read you just Bob Proctor's law of compensation, because it's so really tied into the money. It's the key universal laws that reference the prosperity teachings of Ralph Waldo Emerson. But this was what Bob used to say to us. The income is determined by three factors: the need for what you do, the ability to do it, and the difficulty in replacing you. So how much are you needed in whatever you're doing, and how able you are? Are there people who are better at it, or you're doing really the best you can, or difficulty to replace you? You become one of the best, you're irreplaceable. Now everybody is replaceable, but I mean, comes close to knowing for the person that actually, if they have to replace you, they're gonna have lots of problems. So that is really important. So we love you and leave you with this. We can talk about money, many other
Sounds good. Another
subjects.
episode.
Yes, and well, because there's so much to cover, but I hope this was helpful, and we wish you a wonderful week.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.